All right, welcome. It is a lovely Watch Club Tuesday. We sound amazing. We sound loud and proud. I can love it. Oops, that level. It is your girl Auto09, and we are starting off this lovely Watch Club Tuesday with Empresses in the Palace, episode 14, part 2. And if you guys don't know, Watch Club is a weekly episodic type show that or segment, if you will, that I've created where we just pretty much just go over, and commentate over, my favorite, show for each season. For this season in particular, it's Empresses in the Palace. But it could be K dramas, it could be C dramas, it could be anime, it can be the latest movie, it could be a TV show. It doesn't even matter. Like whatever particular medium in those categories that I was like, oh, we're gonna be talking about that, will more than likely be the topic for each season. I want to let you know that each Watch Club is uploaded to my YouTube, HPMP Restore. And if you'd like to see just weekly clips or segments, they're always going to be highlighted up on our Twitch here. Enough with the intro. I don't want to continue to hold back because I know you're ready for this juicy little script I got for y'all. Honestly, we're starting from episode 67 because remember, we did part 1 last week. We're starting with part 2. Part 1 was 65 and episode 66. Part 2 will be 67, 68, and 69. I already know with recap of 66, we didn't end on a good note. The Empress Dowager's health looking wasn't looking too good, right? And now that we're starting the episode off, the literal very opening scene of episode 67, looking a little unfortunate. The emperor and the empress and all the consorts and concubines of the harem are kneeling before the empress's dowager's bed, and they're sobbing and crying. Well, some of them, because Zhen Huan's like, I don't give a fuck about it. Not that she doesn't give a fuck, but she doesn't make a false show, of her sorrow. She's just mournful but silently, But also, she'll give a fuck about it, right? And the emperor, he's holding on to his mother's hand because she's not like dead yet. She's like on her deathbed. Like she has moments before she's gonna go, right? And so the emperor's talking to her for a moment, and he's like looking at them crying. He's looking at her dying. He just gets annoyed at everything, right? He kind of like berates the empress, and she's like, we're all so sad, and we're all just so like, oh. Right? And he asks them in the end to like leave, right? And so all the consorts leave, and it's just the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. And they talk for a bit, and I didn't even think it was gonna be this bad. Like, I didn't think the Empress Dowager would be this much of a bitch. She's literally moments away, breaths away from dying, and you would think she would do the right fucking thing. You would think she would, like, yes, we know she's gonna protect the empress. Remember, she made her little will. Ooh, hit my jug of water. She made her little will. We saw that to protect the empress, but I thought at least she would tell the emperor, oh, but make sure keep Zhen Huan here to keep her in check because she's killed. I thought she would feel guilty about everything she's done still, but no. In fact, the meeting itself goes quite opposite. Like these two end up fighting about some very serious topics that were never discussed, right? Like events way before the start of this show, right? And I was like, okay, so we're airing out dirty laundry from the past right now, and it has to do with the current emperor and how he took the throne. And if some of y'all, if y'all watch Scarlet Heart, or if y'all are aware with just Qing Dynasty like information and history, it was debated and pretty much understood that the current emperor right now, I believe, what's his title? The Yongjin Emperor, the 14th son of the Kangxi Emperor, him. That's who we're talking about here. So the dirty laundry that they're talking about is how he obtained his throne, and apparently it has to do with something with no, the Yongjin Emperor isn't the 14th son. It's the young. He's the emperor is the young. Jesus, chat. As you can see, these titles really do get you tongue tied. The Yongjin Emperor is the son of the Kangxi Emperor, and it also involves the 14th son of the Kangxi Emperor, is what I was talking about. That's what I was trying to demonstrate, and I was just getting all mixed up. LOL. And apparently, this has to do with how he obtained the throne from the 14th prince. It was some, you know, like, I guess battle, bloody battle or whatever. And the Empress Dowager, at the time, because she's the mother of both of these sons, at the time apparently, had to give up being able to see her son. Apparently, he's been locked away for years and years for some unforgivable mistake, some crime that he committed, right? And so our current emperor, the Yongjin Emperor, you know, hears that she wants to see him. Like that's her last dying request. And he denies her, right? He tells her that just some things, some things you just can't forgive. And he like the line he says is really fucked too. He's like, you've spent so much time with, younger 14th brother, just spend some time with me. Just, outright telling her, don't ask that question. Let's just hang out together as she's dying, right? And I'm just like, how do you? Okay, well maybe he really did do something unforgivable because they never state what the crime is, what the matter of him obtaining the throne, like what the actual situation is. So maybe it was something really fucked or something really really shitty that would like have major implications. We don't know, right? But for some reason, the emperor refuses to give in to his dying mother's request, right? And so we also see, sorry, chat, the dirty laundry isn't done. The dirty laundry isn't just one sided, you know? The emperor, gets angry because his mother is just pleading with him and she's like, this is all I want, please. And he's like, you know what? I've been doing so much for you. I've basically married Empress Chunyun. She died, you know. Still married her younger sister, who obviously he very is aware that she kills and kills mercilessly and has killed children and concubine alike in the harem. So he's like, I've done all this, not to mention you slept around with Long Kadol, and I'm glad you handled that for me, but that shit wasn't cool, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, the grass isn't green on the other side. You aren't abstained from having not done shit in the past, especially me. So don't try and pull this you're dying move, which I don't get why he's trying to play this petty game at this point. Just grant the lady her wish. Just fucking give in to her wish, please. Right? And so he kind of like goes tick for tat and is like, well, you did this and I've done this for you. What about me? And it's really unfortunate and troubling to see how like basically her last moments were spent pretty much pleading and grieving for her son while also like just simultaneously being yelled at, like just being completely screamed at, right? And so she just dies. She looks at him. She doesn't even get a word out after he starts yelling, by the way. She just looks at him and then dies. Fuck. So he kneels down and, he gives this line where he's like, Mother, can you sing me a song? Can you sing me the lullabies that you've never sung for me before, just once, please? And I'm just like, oh God, am I supposed to feel bad? Am I supposed to feel bad? I don't know. Like, yes, it's not all black and white, it's very gray, but I don't feel bad for the Emperor, dude. Like, she's dead. Like, why? Why? Why do you choose an owl to do this? She's dead. Anyways, chat, the next scene is the funeral rituals and all the rites for her, and everyone's kneeling and kotoing and bowing respectfully, right? And so we see after the funeral, noble consort she is leaving the emperor's palace, and she sees fourth Prince Hongli coming up the stairs, and he's like bringing some soup to greet his father and check on him because apparently he's been feeling sad, right? And she kind of cautions and warns him that, hey, listen, you don't need to be showing up with no soup and trying to placate him. No, no, no. You need to be his son right now. And right now, you should be like, I quote unquote, because the lyrics are a little wonky on YouTube. They're a little wonky. She says that she wants him to guard the tomb of the Empress Dowager, which I think she just like stand guard as a way to show like filial respect, if you will. And so since the emperor is feeling sad and the emperor can't do it, she's like, you should do that to show filial piety to obviously the Empress Dowager, but also to your father. This would really would make him feel better, not you showing up with some soup, right? And I was just like, oh, damn. This is Mother Zhen Huan right here, but she ain't fucking around. She's like, listen, you need to do A and B so we can get to C and D. Understand? And I'm here for it. I'm really here for it. Like, she knows that because her second son, sixth prince, is too young to do anything and try and become a prince and vie for the throne. Like, she doesn't want that future for him, so she's gonna be relying on fourth prince. She's gonna be relying on Hong Li to really kind of carry that burden, if not necessarily get the throne, guard her and their futures and ensure that he does the right things every step of the way. Like, she's gonna have to caution him to make sure he doesn't step off that path, right? But after that, after some time, it passed, and it's winter now. Before it was super hot. Now it's winter. The emperor is coming to visit the harem, excuse me. And honestly, the empress, double consort, she having the whole drama feud right now. They're at each other's throats. And to break the standoff, apparently the empress, she decides she wants to unleash this plan of announcing that concubine An is 3 months pregnant out of nowhere. Right? Out of nowhere. And by the way, why I mean like they're at each other's throats, I mean like they're having these literally tit for tats, one for one quips that insinuate, like, oh, I'm better than you, or I'm doing this now and you're down. But then the next person's like, oh, but I've gotten this point off and now I'm better than you and I've won this round. And they go back and forth. And into order to win, the battle in itself, and I guess to just be smug in front of noble consort Shi, the empress decides that she's announcing concubine An's pregnancy in front of everyone, right? And of course, everyone's like stunned. The emperor is like, "Oh, really? She's pregnant? Wow, wow." I've only been there about 2 months out of the entire year, twice. Wow, she's pregnant. Like, he's like making this face like, oh, okay, is the math, and of course the empress is, oh, she's ensuring that the imperial physicians have checked her, she's stable, and that everything's a-okay. And so noble lady Ning is really quick to notice that the empress decided to keep this little secret of hers hidden for 3 months, citing like this is the typical time where like the pregnant person has reached a stable point, from like shock or like anything that would like frighten the person or anything that would like overly stimulate them, whether good or bad. And so it kind of alludes to how much the empress wanted to make sure nothing could happen to concubine An, and how she was very, very secretive of everything. And the empress isn't even done, right? And this drama is going rampant. She's like, actually, too, as a matter of fact, I want, and she requests of the emperor like face to face. I want concubine An to be promoted to a consort, right? And that's because yes, I was being secretive about her pregnancy. There's been really ugly rumors, really shitty rumors and gossips going around about her and her father's situation. And in order to stabilize that, in order to hit my mic, in order to make sure that no consort or no concubine can get an idea or can get a plan, hatch a plan, do something nefarious, you know? We want to go ahead and stabilize the position and promote it or consort. We being obviously concubine on would love to be promoted, and the empress, right? And the emperor, he's very hesitant, but noble consort, she knows what's up. She knows this game she's playing. She knows. And like I said, she is able to look at the long term. This is why I will always say forever and ever, noble consort she will be better than imperial noble consort Dunsu, aka consort Hua, and she'll always be better than the empress because she can look at the long-term plan and the long-term goal and the gains without having to be over necessarily cruel. Sure. So noble consort she's like, give her that promotion, don't even worry about it. Let me let you have this round, right? And so, speaking of noble consortium, we switch over to her after having dealt with all of this bullshit. And she's in her palace thinking about where to go from here, you know? And she's kind of thinking what we're all thinking. Like, how the hell is she even pregnant? How did Concubine On even conceive, you know? Because she, like we said, she doesn't get that many visits from the Emperor to then actually have the opportunity to, lay with him. But then she's been taking fucking fertility pill or beauty pills that's been fucking her up and essentially ruining her fertility. Water break. So good, so good. And then now we also have to think about the Empress has a possibility of gaining an imperial heir, an imperial prince through concubine on. And this increases her chances of succeeding the throne. And obviously, if one of her sons succeeds the throne and becomes the next emperor, this is going to have dire implications for noble consort Xi's future and the future of her children. Don't, of course, our current empress isn't going to allow noble consort Xi to live, or more or less allow her to live well. And she'll probably ship all of her children off to some faraway land under the guise of foreign marriage and creating bonds and bullshit and trade and bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like she knows that this isn't good. This isn't looking too sweet for her. So noble consort she decides to enact a plan. Decides to, instead of run from this ominous, sign that shit, things are changing and they're changing for the worse, instead of buckling down and trying to kill concubine on off or go head to head with the empress, no, noble consort she way smarter than that. She visits the emperor. She brings him some snacks. She's like, oh, I know you're gonna eat lunch and I know you're gonna overeat because you're so happy, so I just wanted to bring you some snacks, to make sure that you digest well and you be a-okay, right? The thing is, she conveniently brings Consort Hui's favorite snacks. And for those of you that don't know, Consort Hui was a very, very sweet and awesome friend to noble consort Shi, who unfortunately died in childbirth at the hands of concubine An, right? And so obviously the emperor's like, oh, okay, yeah, like I'll eat these snacks. I love Consort Hui's favorite snacks, you know. And before they can even say a little bit more, and before, Noble Consort Shi decides to enact more magic, Su Peshong comes in to announce that the interior office has drawn up some title names for him, for the emperor specifically, to choose for concubine on when getting her consort title, right? And so the emperor decides to have Noble Consort Shi help. He's like, to me at least, chat, maybe he was like, oh, she's kind of pissed that, the person who killed her friend is actually not necessarily getting punished but getting rewarded. Ah, I should probably try and not, make this too rough on her and maybe decide to include her in on this, which I was like, that's where you fucked up. That's where you done have fucked up now, okay? Because giving Noble Consort Shi the opportunity to even review these names, bro, the Emperor's so fucking dumb because he like See, I don't know, chat. I couldn't believe it because it's like obviously giving her that opportunity will allow her to dictate, the name, the style, the meaning behind, Concubine On's future name. And she surely does. And as she should, because fuck Concubine On. She surely does choose a name befitting of that bitch. Like, she really does. And so the name she chooses, she wants to choose, the emperor doesn't end up liking. She doesn't want, excuse me, he doesn't like any of the title names, right? So noble consort she decides to get the idea that how about I drop a name or I write up a name for you. If you don't like it, I'll keep going. And so the emperor agrees, right? And so they write the name Li. It means good at singing, good at dancing, one having an obedient and docile nature. Not to mention, novel consort she says it reminds her, like it actually gives her the like conjures up the image of the Wang Li bird, which is an Oriole bird for those of you that don't know. And that is a singing bird. And Su Peixiang also informs the emperor that the Huangli birds are really known for bearing many, many children. So that could be seen as like a blessing, as well as wishing good fortune upon, concubine on, right? And so the emperor's like, that's actually pretty good. I have no problem with that. Seeing no reason not to agree, tells Su Peixiang, relay my edict, consort, excuse me, concubine An's title will now be consort Li. He tells Su Peixiang to also inform the empress, you choose the date for the ceremony. So, noble consort she isn't done, right? She's here enacting her plans, but she also has to make sure that it goes smoothly and that she also benefits from this. She can't just seem benevolent for actually being benevolent because that's not what she's doing. That's let's be honest. She's trying to ensure that even though concubine An is getting a foothold with this child, and therefore the empress getting, more pawns, noble consort she needs to do the same thing. But instead of trying to, I don't know, force her hand or force somebody's hand into doing things they don't want, noble consort she decides to go a different route. And so she knows that she needs to go on the defense, right? She needs to make sure the empress and concubine on don't use this opportunity. They don't get to, if they at least do get the opportunity, they don't get to use it too much. It's going to be blocked by all the precautions she's going to take. And so the first thing she asks is the emperor is to how do you even pronounce that word? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Hold on. I'm no Google. I know for a fact Google Translate, Google Dictionary can tell me. One pronounce this word.
Posthumously.
Posthumously. There you go. Hey. So yes, noble consort she asks the emperor to posthumously honor consort Hui as, since since concubine An is getting honored and she's getting upgraded to a consort, and it's because she was bearing a child, consort Hui should deserve more because she died giving birth to her child, and it's not fair. That's my interpretation of it, right? And so the emperor he agrees, but he takes it a step further, and I don't even know if noble consort she, thought to calculate this on her part. But the emperor decides that he wants to care for the reputation of the third prince and honor his mother as well, consort Chi. And he's like, normally she wouldn't be able to be honored posthumously because she suicided herself. And doing that is a capital crime, especially for concubines. It implicates one's families and many generations of people. It's a big, big deal when someone does that, especially a concubine. But the emperor wants to be seen as benevolent, right? And so he wants to posthumously honor consort Chia as well, and decides he doesn't want to have a reputation for, abusing the women in his harem, because a lot of them died really badly or were punished and then died really badly, right? And so he tells noble consort Shi that he will in fact award another one of his wives, and particularly noble consort Shi's arch enemy, who we all know, who I've been all talking about, Consort Hua, right? And her title that I always say, because I don't know, I love that her title, it being like, so because it's a title, apparently it's a title that was supposed to mock her name and not actually mean anything, and I thought it was so funny. And like, I hated Consort Hua in this series, so I was like, oh yeah, fuck her, we're gonna call her that anyway. But yeah, her title is gonna be Imperial Noble Consort Dunsu, right? But this, even with all of this, noble consort Shi, knowing that she needs to push a little bit more, she needs to get just a little bit more, because this is the emperor acting on his own, and yes, it's working in her favor, but she needs just a little bit more, right? And so she needs to make sure that all these defensive maneuvers that she's taking right now all take place in such a seamless way and effect that there can be no room for concubine on, soon to be consort, and the empress to try and retaliate, at least not in any way or capacity that would do anything for them, right? So she asks the emperor, and she kind of also does this. I want to notate that she does this because she genuinely cares, but she asks the emperor to promote consort Duan and promote her higher than herself. She is the most senior woman in the harem, not to mention, it would be unfair if, you would, just because I have more favor, you solely disrespect her seniority and her time spent with you because of that. That's a disrespect to our friendship, right? And I really, really appreciated that note, because obviously she genuinely does care about her, but she also knows she needs this backup, and she needs someone who can be higher than her, that can reach the Empress a little bit closer than Noble Consort Shi, right? Noble Consort Shi is just a noble consort. But with Consort Dawn's going to be an imperial noble consort, right? And so the Emperor agrees. And he also adds, again, because he just, I think he knows what she's trying to do, but at the same time, because two things can be true at once, at the same time is also trying to make up for losses that he himself has participated in. And one of those losses is that he would like to promote consort Jing to noble lady, to noble consort with consort Shi, and then noble lady Shin, as well as many others in the harem. So he decided that he was just going to do a whole sweep of upgrades, of one, to a lot of the people who's been owed that respect, but two, to just some of his favorites, right? So the emperor knowing what's going on, right? It's noble consort She know what's going on. Kind of look at each other, and they kind of like smile and have this knowing laugh with each other, because they know the intent behind these promotions. At least I am interpreting that as such, and I feel like at the same time, with all these chess pieces in place, it won't be so hard on each other and like their prospective selves. It won't be hard on the emperor when he's in court and he doesn't have to deal with so many ministers trying to vie for favor, because a lot of these women in the harem's parents and court minister officials are really good people. Like, case in point, noble consort She's dad, Jinyan Dao, was a really good court official. Didn't really care to try and do much other than what he was supposed to do, and got ousted for that, right? And we get a little bit of a comical scene, right? The ceremonial offices that handles all these promotions, or will handle all these promotions, is shown to be apparently a place not to fuck around at. You can't fuck around here. Apparently the manager is like saying everyone has to work 115% better, or 150% better. And you basically saying that noble consort She is head bitch in charge, and she's handling all of this, so we can't fuck up, because then all our heads are gonna roll. And so I need to know that y'all are going to be able to do that. And everyone's like, yes, simultaneously, we got this. And so he's like, oh, okay, bet. Who wants to handle the promotion of Consort Lee? And so a couple people step forward, and immediately he sends them off to get slapped and demoted, talking about at this stage and point, you should know who to please and who not to please. And I'm just like, oh wow, okay, so even knowing even knowing that she's with child and is being promoted, it doesn't help Consort Lee in the end. Like all the little servants and officials and peoples of the palace just know to not try and suck up and do anything for her, as all the other consorts' hands reach far. All they have so many eyes and ears everywhere, and if you fuck up, you fuck up. And clearly noble consort she's arms and ears and eyes and everything reach really deep into the palace. And like in the next scene too, like we get even the bigger implications of like what that means for concubine on, right? Especially her promotion. um she's like throwing a fit and pretty much upset that those servants got punished, and how it shows that anyone trying to suck up to her is going to be immediately, punished or demoted or killed, because she's not worth it. She's not worth the trouble. She doesn't deserve it. And speaking of concubine on again, like I said, as we're at her palace, we see she's with her maid Baojun, and after she's had like her little episode and she's raving and ranting about the empress and whatnot, the Huangli birds that Su Peshang ordered have been delivered to her, and they're singing and chirping. And when I say singing and chirping, I mean singing and chirping. Like it's like you're in the jungle. You're just smack dead in the jungle, and it's nothing but like bird chirps silencing everything out. And this sends her into another raging fit, right? And Baojun's trying to explain to her, she can't really do anything about the birds. They're sent by the emperor. You know, killing them would be a bad thing. Releasing them would be disrespectful, but Concubine on isn't having that. She's pissed and she's mad. And so she tells her to get rid of them. And despite all this buzz about, her promotion and pregnancy, apparently the Empress, because we see in the next scene, isn't too happy. In fact, she feels nothing but contempt towards Concubine on, and she feels that she doesn't deserve any of this, and is honestly pissed that she decided to go with the title consort Li. Apparently, Li being a character used for the Empress and the Emperor, right? So she's pissed, but she's also even more pissed at noble consort She and her plans to start promoting dead consorts, not to mention the ones in the hair, right? So apparently, we get this repercussional effect, this ripple wave effect of consort She's decisions, and it is wreaking havoc on her enemies. And I love it, chat. It is time these women. It is damn high time these women got what they deserve. What a break. I love that water. Anyways, chat. Consort Lee decides that she's gonna make plans of her own, right? She is being described herbal medicines by the Empress. The Empress knows that the pregnancy in itself is really unstable, and that they have to choose these methods that are really really extreme, just to make it seem that nothing's going on with Consort Lee, right? But like I said, she has plans of her own. And Consort Lee decides that, oh, you know what? Fuck that. We're gonna throw these medicines out, and we're gonna do this on our own. And what those plans are, we really don't get to see much of. And I don't know why she isn't taking the medicines. Maybe she is concocting her own medicines. It's really unclear. They don't show much. We switch on over to noble consort She, and she's at her palace talking with Jin Shi. And the two are kind of talking about, like, our sentiments from earlier, and how, she wanted to take advantage of the Empress using consort Lee to gain favor, and how she pretty much enacted, this three pronged plan to ensure her power, but as well as ensure the Empress and now consort Lee, and her child wouldn't be able to do much, even with gaining all of this, this reputation and favor. Speaking of, We have rank updates. The harem is changing in major ways, chat. I love rank updates because I love seeing the title switches. I love keeping track of the titles because I get confused and I need to have a concise list. And this is my OCD getting a good scratch, if you will. So, the current ranks are as follows in terms of seniority. So older meaning the older concubines, typically the women in the harem that have been around at the start of the series or even before the series. Some of them were like secondary consorts, and whatnot. And then we have the newer category, which is the younger women, typically the women who came into the harem at the start of the series and at the middle or, seemingly towards the end, whatnot. In the older category, we now have one empress. We now have one imperial noble consort Duan. We now have one noble consort Jing, and one concubine Shen. In the newer category, we still have our noble consort Shi. We have one consort Li, two concubines, concubine Nen and concubine Jen. We have one noble lady Ying, and one attendant Kang. We have so many women in our harem. Oh my gosh, I love seeing the titles. I really do. I don't know, it scratches an itch for me, chat. I really don't get it. But after the conferral ceremony has ended and everything has taken place, Consort Lee, who was unable to attend due to her fragile pregnancy, is, kind of sulking at her palace, walking back and forth, and she's pretty much notating how like the festivities have just begun, right? And surely she must know something's up because literally noble consort Shi, noble consort Jing, and concubine Jen all come to visit, aka mock, aka bother, aka just pretty much shit on consort Lee, right? And when I say mock, I really do mean mock. Like they make a whole big thing of this series. It was this could have been cut. This could or honestly, this could have been the Imperial Chinese version of Carrie. The way these these women were all like just constantly in her face mocking her, right? And so Noble Consort, she in particular, comes bearing gifts. She comes to congratulate Consort Lee on her promotion and her pregnancy and all her like favors. And that's good. It's just the gifts themselves are the problem, right? Noble Consort, she gives her a pair of fans, but they specifically have Huang Li birds on them. The Oreo birds that we were talking about before. And this is to also tie in the fact that her name Li, which also is reminiscent of the Huangli birds, is just really used to mock her voice, her singing voice that she no longer has, because she sounds like a fucking bag of bricks right now when she tries to sing. Also, Noble Consortium gives her these beautiful gems that are called pigeon's blood, still referring to the bird theme of her name, basically calling her a bird brain through and through. And I was just like, wow. And Noble Consort Shi, excuse me. Yes, Noble Consort Shi and Noble Consort Jing really don't make it easy because they're just sitting here laughing at the facts like, oh yes, it must be something you love. Like, clearly this is something you love. And I'm just like, oh wow, just fan the flames. Just fan the flames of hatred. Please. Clearly, they just, like I said, chat, clearly they were there to do nothing but disturb this woman's mental health. All right? After that interrogation of a visit, Noble Consort Shi and Noble Consort Jing are together discussing Consort Li, right? And if anything is strange is going on, Noble Consort Shi kind of want to like investigate Consort Li because they notice that something isn't right. That pregnancy of hers isn't that just came out of nowhere, too quick, too fast, and with the favor that she has, it's something's going on. So these two are together, like I said, they're discussing if anything is strange is going on, and they have Noble Consort Shi's head eunuch Xiao Yunzi come into excuse me, come in to help them pretty much search and look for things. And he retrieves this strange looking pill from her palace. It's this little pink rose like small pill that when they kind of smelt it, they were taken aback at how strong it smelled, right? So with Noble Consorcy doing her investigations and kind of like using her connections with Imperial Physician Wen, they confirmed that that little like that what's I gonna say? I keep calling it a pill, but it's like a aphrodisiac incense. It's incense, there we go. It's they discover basically that it's a little incense nub that has aphrodisiac like properties, and it's derived from a plant that's not easily found. So this was definitely someone's intention. Like someone intentionally sought this plant out to create this type of incense, right? We know that's illegal because anything used to seduce the emperor is automatic death penalty. We also find out from Imperial Physician Wei that Consort Li's pregnancy is actually unstable and most likely won't carry to term. So now with all of this confirmation, Noble Consort Shi is not easy right now. She is not easy. And we're gonna have our final thoughts because that's the end of that episode. And honestly, chat, this episode really kind of highlights the machinations. You know, like before we get to see the schemes and the plot and the drama, but now we get to see the inner working machinations. We get to see the how the clock works and all the little dials and twists and turns and knobs, right? And it's very intriguing how these women go about fighting for favor, securing their futures, and how they go about handling each other in the harem. This episode was crazy. We got a whole bunch of promotions. Consort Li is pregnant. Like, so much shit is happening. And now it's giving so much for Noble Consort Shi to think about. Let's get back into the drama. Episode 68. Now heavily pregnant, Consort Li just finished talking with the emperor, like sends him off and whatnot, and suddenly she starts to get these pains, calling out for help for her maid and real physician. Something wrong. So much pain, chat. Okay, like she might be teetering right now, chat. All right. We don't get much just yet from that though. Don't get anything from that though. Because we switch over to Noble Consort Shi, and she's in her palace. And apparently, when trying to get information about whatever happened going on at Consort Li's palace, nobody wanted to really say anything. Everyone was being tight-lipped and just saying, oh, everything's fine, nothing's fine. The physicians came over, but she's fine, you know? And so, of course, the Empress has to visit Consort Li. You know, this is her cash cow right now. And after her recent health scare and, you know, almost miscarrying, because she didn't necessarily did miscarry this time, she is really pissed off with Consort Li. And apparently, the reason behind all this is because they're trying to use her eventual miscarriage, because she is going to miscarry. They're going to try and frame Noble Consort Shi with it and saying, some way, somehow, when Noble Consort Shi visited her or they talked to each other, you know, she caused her miscarriage. But Consort Li is unable to, you know, do anything right now. Noble Consort Shi pretty much ruined their plan because she is claiming to be sick and unable to see her, especially, you know, a pregnant consort. You don't want to get her sick, right? But with over a little month left to carry out their plan, least Consort Li's life be in danger and due to carrying the child too long, the Empress pressures her to figure something out and is like, you know, telling her, you know, you still need to keep up the front of appearing to be okay, just so nothing goes wrong with our plan. And obviously with all this pressure and all this malice and pain and all this bullshit happening, she's gonna break, she's gonna crack. I can clearly see it. Consort Li is not built for this type of bullshit, and the fact that she has to sit here and basically carry a dead fetus to pretend like she's pregnant is really sickening on the Empress's part, in my opinion. Meanwhile, Noble Consort Shi, who's already wise to what the fuck is happening and is the reason why she's claiming to be sick in the first place, is trying to do, you know, her best to relax in her palace, but she's also concocting a plan for this as well. She's sending lily flowers via the floral department to Consort Lee, and not really sure why, but obviously there's a motive behind this. And in the next scene, Noble Consort Shi, Noble Consort Jing are together, and they're talking together with Princess Long Yu, right? And this, to me, is important to note because this is showing after the really real fucked up betrayal by Noble Consort Jing, you know, this kind of shows that their relationship has very much improved and has been mended, and it's now genuine. And obviously Princess Long Yu has taken a liking to being with Noble Consort Shi because she's always around her, you know, via her mom. So now she calls her mom too, you know, and she kisses her cheeks, and she's always talking with her, you know. And I thought that was really sweet that they have that now, you know. She doesn't have Meituang with her anymore, and with her being gone, she doesn't really have a confidant anymore. Yes, she can talk to Imperial Noble Consort Duan, but it's not the same, you know? So much so, you know, that we see the relationship between the two consorts are growing in the fact that they're now talking about crown princes and specifically court officials who are bringing up the topic of crown princes, and how the emperor is apparently hoping to appoint the sixth prince, who is literally an infant. And we knew this is what he was gonna do. He kept saying that he was favoring Hong Yan, but Noble Consort Shi was like, please don't do that. Let's not do that. And though this is in relation, yes, to the relationship between Noble Consort Shi and Noble Consort Jing, this also shows that all the women in the harem are aware that the emperor is favoring the sixth prince. And that's a dangerous thing. He's an infant, remind you. I don't think he's yet, I think at most a year for the time that we've been going through right now. And so that's easy. He's an easy target for like poison or, you know, being kidnapped, you know, shit like that. But before we get more of that, Consort Lee's birthday is around the corner, and her being pregnant is doubled the joy, right? So obviously the emperor is, you know, by all rights wants to visit her, and, you know, he's somewhat obligated, obviously, culturally speaking, but he genuinely wants to be with her. And they have their meal, they're talking, and homeboy is just like, listen, I'm feeling you, you're feeling me, you know, let's do what we're here to do. Let's get intimate. And Consort Lee just received a warning from the Empress, you know. Don't do anything sexual with the Emperor, don't get intimate with him. You know, your pregnancy is unstable. Remember the plan. Remember the plan. Right now that we're jeopardizing the plan because the Emperor, you can't say no to him, Consort Lee ultimately, you know, feels that she can't turn him down, but knows that she's gonna ruin her plan, gives in, and without delay, word gets out that she miscarries. And word gets out particularly to Noble Consort Shi and Noble Consort Jing. And at first, the two are unbothered, completely unbothered. Like, this is so unserious to them. They're like, what's the problem? A consort miscarried. But when they hear that actually it happened when the emperor, you know, was, you know, all up in there, the two immediately like rush over to her palace, right? And while they're there, they greet the emperor, the empress. They get their updates from the doctors about Consort Lee's condition. And then we also see, conveniently, that Noble Consort Shi is signaling to Jinshi to remove the lily she's been sending all this time. Secretly, might I add. And so now everyone's questioning, you know, how could the emperor disregard, you know, the fact that Consort Lee is so fragile, and, you know, this could run a risk. And so everyone's just kind of like, baffled right now, stunned and silenced. The Emperor hasn't even said a word at this point. And in the end, he only feels guilt, right? He feels at fault for what happened. And he decides to take respite at the Empress's palace, as the situation, seems to have ended for here. Both the Emperor and Consort Lee completely reel from the loss, right? They also feel pretty much, and this is all my opinion on this, from what I've read, from what I've looked at, they pretty much are just feeling PTSD right now, from my understanding. And Consort Lee doesn't really want to do anything anymore. She's, like I said, she cracked. She's tired. She doesn't want to be used as a pawn again. And she ends up, kind of secretly admitting defeat to Zhen Huan, right? And she says specifically, revenge isn't what, I thought it wasn't what it was going to be. It isn't worth it anymore. And sometime, a little bit later, the Emperor is with noble consort Shi, and we see that he immediately becomes enraged at Attendant Kong, who just happened to be there. She wanted to, bring him some snacks, really something innocuous, nothing crazy, right? He was, mad that she got all dolled up and looked pretty. He was like, Consort Lee just, miscarried. We just lost an imperial heir. How dare you? Just pretty much outright, bipolar, flip of the switch type of thing. Really, these two really are dealing with a lot. And so, as we all saw in the last episode, we got to reveal that the little incense pebble that Xiaoyunzi found was an aphrodisiac incense stick, right? And so in the next scene, the Empress, Imperial Noble Consort Duan, Noble Consort Jing, Noble Consort Shi, all the heads of the palace, basically, seniors, if you will, are all gathered, and they are talking with Imperial Noble Consort Duan, and they are bringing up the topic of that little incense she made, right? Of incense Consort Lee had made. And Imperial Noble Consort Duan brings this up because she was talking about making fragrances herself, and how, she happened to find this because she obviously talked to Consort Lee about fragrances and how to, concoct things. And she ends up leading her suspicions towards Consort Lee and her miscarriage, and how the Emperor just couldn't keep his hands off her. Water break. Damn, I love H2O. And so all three consorts at this point use the opportunity to expose Consort Lee for having used this aphrodisiac-like incense to seduce the Emperor, right? This also resulting in the harm of an imperial fetus, killing the child. This double whammy pretty much backs the Empress in the corner. She can't do anything to defend Consort Lee, and she can't do anything to investigate their claims. She knows that once this information is presented, that's it. And so the Emperor, excuse me, the Empress, no, not the Empress. The Emperor has Eunuch Su search Consort Lee's palace. Consort Lee, of course, is very haughty. She is very arrogant, very much reminiscent of damn. My coughs are getting insane. At this point, I'm just about to go. The cough drops. Jesus. Sorry about that, y'all. Like I said, at this point, she's just looking as pretty pathetic as, well, at that point, Consort Hua looked when she was being completely demoted and everyone was raiding her palace at that time, so many episodes ago. And so these parallels reminded me of how ruthless the Emperor can be once you give him that solid piece of information. Oh, that's it for your ass. If you cannot, without a shadow of a doubt, prove, like, if you have no guardian angel to come save you at the end, you're done for. And it also reminded me basically how Noble Consort she got out of her predicament, and when Noble Lady Chi at the time was accusing her of infidelity, and then how the Empress messed with the paternity water. She barely had a slim chance to get out of there, right? But Consort Lee isn't gonna get out of this. Obviously, Eunuch Su finds the incense and they escort her to the Empress's palace. So obviously, we see this is what Noble Consort she has been planning. This is what her machinations in the background have led up to. And finally, we also notice that the incident from all those years ago, when she was pregnant for the first time, but somehow miscarried due to unknown reasons, was actually done and actually discovered to later be orchestrated by Consort Lee. And she used the scar gel as a ruse to poison her and pretty much create this decrepit state where her womb wouldn't be able to support the child, causing her to miscarry. She used musk specifically in that scar gel. So all of this coming to light, all of this evidence and dirty laundry coming to light before the emperor, the empress, all these major figureheads in the harem themselves as well, the noble consorts. At the end of the day, leave no room for debate, leave no room for discussion. The emperor initially wanted to be really lenient in punishing Consort Lee, but Consort Lee has done too many things wrong. Not to mention was the initial cause for his favorite, his bae, the love of his life, her miscarriage. Not to mention her own miscarriage, killing two imperial fetuses, imperial heirs, would-be heirs. So now, no, he can no longer be lenient. He orders her to be locked in Yangshi Palace in solitary confinement. All of her close servants will be killed. The rest are going to be sold off as slaves. And every single day that she wakes up, she's going to be slapped in the face to serve as a reminder of everyone in the harem. To serve as reminders to everyone in the harem for her deeds. And honestly, I was just like, just kill her already. Just what the fuck? Just. And you guys think it doesn't sound as bad, but humans are social creatures, okay? This woman will not be able to allow to see family. She won't be able to allow to see friends, enemies, the emperor, obviously, a servant to come serve her at any point in time. Except for like meals, maybe. For the rest of her life, not to mention to be literally knelt outside of her palace and slapped every day. Like that's at most the interaction she'll have to deal with, is being slapped every single day in the face in front of everyone. That's crazy. For the rest of her life. Or until he gets so inevitably sad over what he's done and then orders her not to. But that can go on for years, and it probably will, especially with Noble Consort she around. She'll so much so enforce that Consort Lee go through this punishment that I'm just like, okay, just kill her. Right? Just kill her. And now that she has all of this with nothing left to lose, no title, no child, nothing except for what the emperor really decides to give her, Consort Lee decides to ask to see Noble Consort Shi, right? And she also requests to eat bitter almonds, and I'm like, oh, okay, she's gonna have an allergic reaction type thing. She's gonna go out eating something that's obviously gonna kill her. Fine, okay, I can see where this is going. And so the two women, they air out their grievances. They air out all the resentment and hate and misunderstanding and anger and sadness that they've had at each other and for each other up until this point. And in the end, Consort Li decides to go out on her own terms, like I said, and she's eating the almonds, slowly like dying. And as she does, she's kind of giving this really like forewarning, this foreshadowing, if you will, to Noble Consort to kill the Empress. She's like, you have to kill the Empress. And so we lose, unfortunately, Consort Li, and that's the end of that episode. Honestly, chat, my final thoughts was, we saw this coming with all of the machinations being shown to us as the viewer. This episode wasn't too hard to figure out where everything was going. I think it was just giving us a little bit of exposition, but it kind of fell flat. Like, I still enjoyed the episode, but it kind of fell a little flat towards, you know, the drama and how they went about the exposition and getting Consort Li caught, and like Noble Consort Shi revealing her plan. You know what I'm saying? Like, we did it, yay! But at the same time, did we? Did we do it? We still have the Empress to deal with. Yes, Consort Li, a big pawn, obviously, and the Empress's plan is still here, but man, the Empress, we still have to worry about the edict, or the will and testament the Empress Dowager created, you know? So that's no good. That's no bueno. And with episode 69, we start off with Noble Consort Chi, and she's with her fourth. She's with the fourth prince, walking to, presumably to see the Emperor, right? And they see Noble Consort. See, these are why the titles are needed. These are why the titles are always needed. We see Concubine Ning outside waiting. Concubine Ning says the Emperor's, he's reprimanding his son, the third prince. She's just kind of there idly waiting for them to finish because he requested her to come visit. So at this point, we see that the third prince is told to leave and not to come back. His father's upset that he's not able to retain and maintain information and knowledge that he supposedly should have already learned, right? And so, like we said, he can't return unless he remembers some type of policy or another. And that's when Noble Consort, she talks to him for a few moments, and it's very heartwarming. The third prince he's guarded, but not too guarded. He genuinely sees her as just like, you know, someone offering advice to him. He takes it. But speaking of, the third prince is now time for him to get married. The third prince is now chosen. If not, a couple people of his own have now been in like pretty much an arranged styled marriage, where it's similar to the concubine selection for the emperor, but not necessarily as grand or as formal, if you will, but still very much so, still a big thing. So much so that the empress, who's obviously his foster mother, has invited Noble Consort Jing and Noble Consort Chi, if not necessarily on formality, to just gloat, you know? And she's like, she wants them there to help choose a prospect, and obviously at this point, she has a favorite herself. And it just so happens to be a favorite that Noble Consort Jing likes, right? And it just so happens to be, of course, you guessed it, the niece of the Empress, Ulanara Qingying, right? And you guys all know who Qingying is. And if you guys, come on. Everyone has seen Ruyi's Royal Love in the Palace. If you haven't, I swear to God, I swear. Well, watch this first then, if you haven't seen that. I wish I would have watched this first and then watched that. But because I have, like, you know, hindsight and everything, because I know how everything turns out, it's funny that this is who they casted to be, you know, the step empress. But like we said, she is the niece of the empress, everyone's main choice, and currently the the petition favored for the third prince, right? The thing is, she has a distasteful, take on children, particularly, Princess Long Yu, who ran up to her and was like, "Oh, you look so pretty," and was pulling on her sleeve, and she kind of like yanked her hand away really quick, not wanting to rip her super fancy, skirt that she created specifically for this day. And so the third prince ends up obviously disliking Qingyi, understandably so, because why are you so fucking rude to my little sister? I'm right here. My mom's right here. Like, just because you're her aunt, like, or like, yeah, like, what's, like, what the hell? So he doesn't vibe. He doesn't vibe with Qingyi at all. But eventually, Noble Consort Jing and Noble Consort Shi leave, and they allow the Empress to be preoccupied with the selection, right? Long Yu actually is used to call over the third prince as well, knowing that the Empress really doesn't care for anyone to be there. She just simply wants to show off the fact that her son's getting married, and to show off that it's from someone from her clan. But on their way back with Hongxi, the third prince, Princess Long Yu and the third prince run into Noble Lady Ying, right? And it's love at first sight for the third prince. We see that he just kind of is enthralled by her beauty. He's like, "Oh, I don't mean to speak out of turn, but the flowers aren't the only beautiful thing here. It's like, all right, bro, like, calm your horses, okay?" Speaking of Noble Lady Ying, in the next scene, she's with the Emperor, and she's playing the guzheng. And I say because obviously you've watched so many C-dramas, so many, like, just dramas in general, you know what I'm saying, that have, like, Chinese instruments in them, and a lot of them have the guzheng, a lot of them have the guqin, a lot of them have, like, pipas and different things like that. But the guzheng is, for those of you that don't know, is a Chinese plucked zither. I believe that's how you say that name. And it's kind of with originally, because it differs, originally made of silk strings, and it had a wide variety and range of string placements depending on, like, time frame, type of music played, the ability of the music player, you know what I'm saying? But it was really interesting just to look up that little fact, but not to get a little too off the rails. So it's at that time that she's playing the guzheng that the third prince comes by to see the emperor, and he wants to call off the selection for marriage. He just wants to focus on studying right now and isn't too keen on marrying anyone, right? Which actually means, we know what this means, Chad. He's found somebody else and he doesn't want to be with anybody else but the person he's found, right? Too bad the person he's found is someone that's already married, and they're married to his father. Jesus. In the next scene, of course, the person that's rejected by the marriage, Qin Ying, is being escorted out of the palace, but she's not leaving on good terms. She's pissed, and she's pissed with her aunt. She's mad that she can't be accepted as the primary wife of a prince, let alone now her aunt's asking her to be some concubine escort, not even a secondary concubine. And so her aunt is just really, really upset with this. She is just like, okay, you want to badmouth me, you want to be so discontent with the favor I'm trying to give to you, not a problem. I'm gonna show you what it means to feel utterly humiliated, right? So the Empress decides to come out with the idea that since she didn't want to be a concubine escort for the third prince, how about you be a secondary consort for the fourth prince? Because it won't even be better than, it's not even going to be better than being, a concubine escort for my son. Get something else. Get somebody else who's not even going to be on the throne, That's the Empress's thinking, right? Not to mention, she's also knowingly doing this to mess with Noble Consort Shi, and by extension the fourth prince, because Chen Ying is unfortunately technically sloppy seconds. I'm sorry, homegirl. Like, it's not her fault. But she is a rejected candidate, and she's now being tossed at, that the person who rejected her brother. It's not a good look for Qin Ying, you know what I'm saying? And which sucks, because, like, I get it, we're in the Qing dynasty, misogyny doesn't necessarily exist, as women are just naturally are considered lesser, but fuck you. Like, why does that reflect on her and her reputation? She didn't do anything wrong. God. I mean, yes, she hates kids, but, like, fuck. Just pisses me off. Makes my blood boil, chat. Anyways, we see that naturally, since we're messing with Noble Consort Shi, we get the next scene with Noble Consort Shi. And she's actually talking with the Emperor about exactly what we were just talking about. The fourth prince having to marry Qin Ying, and how that's essentially, a slap in the face to her son, because he now has to marry someone his brother didn't want to marry, And not only that, but Noble Consort Shi already picked out a primary wife for him, someone that she felt was right for him. And so the Emperor, he's like, he wants to save the Empress of some face. He doesn't want to cause any rifts. He's like, it's just a secondary consort. You can still have your choice for primary consort. Don't even worry about it. And so now it's September. And we have Noble Consort Chi. Noble Consort Shi, Noble Consort Jing, and Noble Lady Ying strolling around together. And Noble Lady Ying notices Prince Gao. And Prince Gao's standing off to the side, and he's standing with his wife, right? When they call out to him. Prince Gao comes over, and his wife is, guess who? Guess who? It's not Huan Bi. It's not, well, she's not Huan Bi anymore. Not Niahuru Xiuyin. It's actually Meng Jinsheng. And I don't like her, chat. She seems scheming to me. Just saying. But Prince Gao and secondary consort Jinsheng come over, and they say that she hasn't been able to officially greet the Emperor and everyone in the harem because she's been sick since her wedding, so that's why she's here today. But everyone, because Noble Consort Jing is here, everyone's still wondering where Huan Bi is. And that's when we find out that Huan Bi is actually back at home taking care of, like, the calculations and the household management chores and stuff like that. And Prince Gao is here with her to come greet. And honestly, this entire encounter pissed me off. I don't like Jingshen. I don't like her. She seems, I wouldn't say scheming, but she doesn't seem right. Alright? But Noble Consort, she returns to the palace, and she's actually meeting with Concubine Ning. And Concubine Ning is pissed. She was so pissed that she had to witness this little drama scene between secondary consort Meng Jinsheng and Prince Gao, and how lovey-dovey they got together. And she didn't like how Meng Jinsheng, was acting, insisting that Prince Gao keeps treating her, a little bit too much, too much of a actual wife. And that's a problem. If you keep treating her a little bit more than, a little bit better, if you treat her even a little bit more, how would I phrase that? That's really funny. I was just trying to think of a sentence, and I'm like, wait a minute, how would I phrase that? Tongue-tied. If he would favor her even just a little bit more than his secondary consort, his other secondary consort, it's gonna cause rifts and it's gonna cause trouble, right? And Noble Lady, she's not Noble Lady anymore. Concubine Ning knows in particular this is gonna cause trouble because Secondary consort Yun Ying is not someone who we can consider not to be jealous. You know, she's definitely gonna take action against him showing her more favor. She doesn't want that inch to become a mile. And Concubine Ling says this because apparently, when we found this out, I was like, oh, crazy. Apparently, secondary consort Yi Ying, you know, at the time, who was going by the name Huan Bi, when she spilled wine on Prince Gao at that revelry, that little party that they had, that little banquet, and he had to get up and, you know, go change his clothes, his pouch fell out. And she pulled it out to create an opportunity to then eventually lead to marrying to Prince Gao. Meaning she orchestrated that entire thing in her favor to get where she is today. And she's not gonna allow the same a woman on the same par title wise. She's not gonna allow some other woman to take that from her. And Concubine Ning is saying that you need to prepare, you need to pay attention, because this isn't gonna go well. And good catch, because now that we know that's what Yu Yin did, I'm worried Yu Yin's gonna do some crazy shit, right? But in the next scene, chat, Noble Lady Ying is walking her alone in the garden, and she's like, just doing her own thing, not really paying attention. Her and her maid are just chilling out. And all of a sudden, Third Prince just runs up. Like, he literally, like, runs up to her, like, out of nowhere, chat. And she, like, is startled and, like, oh, she's like, oh my god, what the fuck? Like, think of it as when you're in the club, ladies, and it's the guy that bought you drinks and he won't leave you alone. That's what it looked like. He just ran up to her and she was like, oh, okay, you're still here. Wow, okay. And the thing is, he also starts to act really inappropriately, right? Like, he starts to pull on her and yank on her. And it's obviously like, you can't do, that's death sentence right there. That's infidelity with his stepmom. And you're the son. Oh my god. Oh my god. Like, it's just no, dude. And so she starts to run away. Like, he gives chase after her. And Noble Consort Jing just so happens to see all this. And she notes that how negatively this would affect the Empress's chances of her son staying in the palace and being able to get to the throne, right? So Noble Consort Jing is plotting something right now. But before we get to that, because they love to bounce around, we next deal with secondary consort Niahudus Yuyan. She is visiting Noble Consort Shi, and it seems that the rumors are true. Prince Gao is getting closer to secondary consort Meng Jinshin, and it's pissing Yuyan off. Yuyan is talking with Consort Shi right now, and she's mad that all of this is happening and she can't get away from it at home, so she's staying in the palace to get away from it for some time. Like, it's driving her mad. And all of a sudden, secondary consort Meng Jinshin shows up to come greet Noble Consort Shi. And annoyed that now she can't get away from secondary consort Meng, I had to make sure to say her name correctly, Meng Jinshin. Even while at the palace, Yuyan decides to just hide in the side, like, corner over there where the curtain was standing and just, like, wait it out. She's like, oh, I can't deal with this shit right now. There's nowhere I can go. I can't go home. I can't go to my sister's house. What the fuck, you know? And so secondary consort Jinshin comes in and she's talking pleasantly with Noble Consort Shi, and she's kind of like, you know, downplaying the relationship between her and Prince Gao, but then decides to just announce she's a month pregnant, shocking everybody, including me. And so it kind of shocks Yuyan so much that she accidentally, like, makes a noise, and secondary consort's like, what the fuck? And they try, and Noble Consort Shi and Jinchi try to recover by pretending it's a servant, and it's hilarious because Jinchi, like, makes a show of it and she yells at her and everything. It's crazy. But if anything, It just goes to show you that, oh my god, like, even when out of the palace, Huanbi still can't get away from the drama. She's gonna have to deal with her own bullshit now. She's gonna have to fight for the man she loves, even though the man she loves doesn't love her and is staying with another woman. Oh, well, I keep calling her Wanbi, but Yu Yin, what are you gonna do? Anyways, I mean, see that Noble Consort, she does offer her some advice on what to do, but she also reminds her to be virtuous, don't do anything brash, don't go after her, nothing can happen to this child, not to mention secondary consort Jinshin is the daughter of a favorite officer of the emperor. Nothing can go wrong. But in the next scene, the third prince, who's being really fucking weird, is still longing over this unrequited love that he somehow concocted in his head that exists in the past few days, right? And he's trying to create like this poem for her, and he's like trying to write it and he can't think of it and all this shit. And it's driving me crazy because it's like, you're gonna get this woman killed and you're gonna get killed, and yes, it's gonna dig at the empress, but it's gonna involve so many innocent people. And then my worry is like, what happens to noble consort Shi? Because this and then what happens to Prince Gao and Yu Yin, because this involves all of them. They're the one that recommended Noble Lady Ying, you know. But in another scene, the fourth prince is with noble consort Shi, and they're talking about his marriages, and she's letting him know that, you know it makes sense that you don't want to marry another wife. I understand, but we gotta do it. The emperor says, hey, it is what it is. And he's vexed. He's like, yeah, I can't be happy that I'm doing this, but at the same time, the empress is only making me do this because this is a person that was rejected by her son and is just trying to embarrass me with this slap in the face. It's yes, it's not even that I don't even love her and I don't want to be tied down. Yes, I don't want to marry two women, but also this is a great disrespect to me, right? So in the end, in the end, noble consort Shi doesn't really do much. She just tells her son that, hey, do what you gotta do, but at this point in time, just treat it as someone to take care at home. That's what it is. Soon after their little meeting, eunuch Su comes to inform noble consort Shi that the emperor would like to see her at his palace. She nods and she's like, cool, no problem, I'll go meet him. And they go off. When we get there, we see noble lady Ying is on the floor crying, while the empress, emperor, and noble consort Jing are all looking disappointed. And that is the end of episode 69, Empresses in the Palace. That was crazy. That was crazy. That was crazy. That was crazy. First of all, that's the end that we want to end on. That's the ending we want to end on. Honestly, chat, like, I'm not even gonna hold you. Noble Lady Ying probably not gonna make out of this. Third Prince probably not gonna make it out of this. But will this be enough to take down the Empress? I don't know. Final thoughts? I don't know. Where is this gonna lead? This was such a fucking, like, cliffhanger, chat. Episode 69. Crazy. Crazy. But I want to thank everyone. I want to thank all my viewers, all my subscribers, everyone tuning in, watching me, and watching Watch Club Season 1, Episode 14, Part 2. Don't forget, feel free to check out my YouTube HPMP Restored, where all episodes of Watch Club are uploaded. We'll be done with Season 1 real soon, chat. We only got a few more episodes. Are you guys ready? I'm so excited. I'm so freaking excited, chat.